Howdy. Welcome to Ausgrave Royalty. I am Justin. We are back in here with another video. Well, one of the last videos of Season 3 of our channel, of the channel here, covering Jean Bolen's Gods and Goddesses and how it ties in with archetypal psychology and all that stuff. So, if y'all are new to the channel, this is like one of the last episodes of a season, so I'd recommend checking out all the prior videos so that makes sense. For those who are new, though, I'll say that the channel is about exploring great ideas that I think people might enjoy. I send up that flare. Hopefully y'all will go check it out and see if it will benefit your life or not. And that's my mission statement here. In this video, just kind of chilling out, taking a step back. We've covered a lot of the gods and goddesses, and just want to zoom out a bit and put it all together, some concluding thoughts, and so on. I don't have as many notes this time, so by Jove, I might actually get through them in a video. I've been disappointed in myself the last couple of videos, just wrapping up a little too quick. I got this cough and first world problems, right? So, for the OGs of the channel, congrats on making it this far with me. I've just really enjoyed this material. Kudos, of course, with a capital K, go to Jean Bolen, of course. Go buy the books, support her. I have her website linked in the description below. But yeah, this has been like a breath of fresh air, I suppose. Although the phrase doesn't apply completely because, this is our third season in archetypal psychology, so maybe it's not as fresh, but this take on archetypal psychology is fresh. I like the Greco-Roman mythological angle. I like that she's a very different author from Robert L. Moore and Douglas Gillette, and a very different author from Dr. Anthony Stevens. I just like her take on archetypal psychology, and how I like that she mobilizes the Greco-Roman mythology for personal growth. And think about the rich history that the Greco-Roman gods and goddesses have. The fact that Jean Bolen found a way to reinvigorate that and apply it to our contemporary age and our contemporary situation. It's impressive and enjoyable, and yeah, kudos. So yeah, I'll actually look at my notes now and go through them. So I know that nobody is, when they cross the street, they're going to be thinking about Ares or Demeter. And when you're allocating to your 401k or having dinner this evening, the gods and goddesses might not be top of mind. But in those rare moments, though, when you're reevaluating your life plans, me and my friend call those moments wargaming. Wargaming. You just sit down. Where am I going? How are things? Am I enjoying my life? Why are we not? Why not? What are goals? What are the mistakes, the lessons? Just taking a second, taking a breather. Again, I say in a lot of my videos, I've made electronic music before. Go check out my video on that. But it's the space between the notes that make a harmony, that make a track, that makes something sound good. In the same way, you want to have a life with space between the notes. That'll be a good life. I would think. I'm guessing. history will we'll see how my life goes. In any case, I think that the gods and goddesses can help out in those wargaming moments of self-work and self-evaluation. I have a video on projection and a defense of the New Age. And yeah, I go watch that, go check out that video if you're curious. But I wanted to say that the scientific objective truth of the gods and goddesses are not really relevant. What matters is the subjective back and forth, the dialogue we have with their attributes and what we can learn from them and all that, and how it applies in a very subjective and specific way. So all the science and statistics in the world injected directly into your brain matrix style won't really give you any insight on their own without some sort of paradigm to filter the information, that being archetypes, potentially. And that's what gods and goddesses, according to Bolen, represent to some extent. I'm looking at my notes, so let's see. Yeah. In season 1, Dr. Anthony Stevens, this is why he got into what he was doing. What sent him on the quest that inevitably led to archetypal psychology. Well, not inevitably, but that led to archetypal psychology being of interest to him, which was his interest in the subjective experience. And, it's not cool to use the word subjective. And I love Ayn Rand. I'm an anarcho-capitalist for the OGs that know. Not that she's a minarchist, but anyway, different discussion. What I'm trying to say is, it's not really, and I've been through the manosphere and all that, there's a big stress these days in those spheres of objectivity, like, don't be emotional. Like, what are the facts? We're a very magician-dominated society, to use the phrasing of Moore and Gillette. Shout out to season 2 of the channel. But there's a big emphasis on, like, knowing stuff. But what good is any of that if your subjective state is a wreck, right? It almost doesn't even matter. Hell, you could envision, like, somebody having a successful life, believing all the right things for the wrong reasons, right? They, consult the clouds for what career they should choose, and it landed in learning to code. And then, lo and behold, they're successful, and coding is so hot right now, to use the Zoolander phrasing. Really, we're going to just do what we do amounts to our the state of our subjective existence. Anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comments below. And check out that video, A Defense of the New Age. So, as with King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, which we covered last season, the gods and goddesses are lenses through which we can look in order to make sense of the nebulous nature of subjective experiences. And the gods and goddesses that we've covered in this season are just other tools in the toolbox. They're different ways of looking at things. And let's say 99% of them don't work, but one does. Then it's a success, If one problem for one person is helped or ameliorated with this season, then I've succeeded. So this material is unapologetically subjective, and it's going to turn a lot of people off. But I guess in a way, this could be like an unconscious desire of mine to swing the pendulum back a little bit from being too in the weeds with statistics and objectivity and and all that, like diving into the like unscientific, the non-rational, not the irrational, but the non-rational. You can't measure an archetype with any specificity, for example. So I don't know. I'm embracing this other side of the coin. Like I mentioned in the Aries episode that I see Woody Harrelson from True Detective season 1, best TV season ever for me. That's like nothing tops it. Woody Harrelson is like an Aries kind of character. Oh, who cares? What's the point? The point is that when one identifies with a god or goddess, they can look to the myths for potential prescriptions for behavior. And I would also say that recognizing yourself in a god or goddess is validating. And that validation alone can have a helpful effect in legitimizing one's problem, which is important. And we've spoken of some of the gods as outsiders, like Dionysus and Hephaestus. And outsiders often struggle with low self-esteem because they don't fit into their culture. They don't. If you're outside of the mainstream, you're going to have to deal with it. All the perks and all the pros and all the cons. So hearing about Dionysus and Hephaestus can help one who identifies with those, like, process what they're going through subjectively. We also talked about that Robert L. Moore, he said that the gods and goddesses, in his view, were not archetypes, but rather he sees the gods and goddesses themselves as subject to the archetypal theory king, warrior, magician, lover, such as Dionysus or Aphrodite being a sort of lover archetype. I definitely respect this point of view, but I think, I don't think it hurts anything to have extra or more specific articulations of the lover archetype. The type of expression Dionysus relates versus the way Aphrodite relates her expression of the lover archetype. Again, the more tools in the toolbox, the better. You don't have to use them all for each problem, but if you don't have the one tool that could help you, that's the only way it's a problem, not to have too many. To have too many is not necessarily a problem. Maybe it could be. Let me know in the comments below, but I think the more the merrier. I think when certain problems arise, you'll know which tool to use intuitively. So, I also, in the last video, we talked about the morphic fields and all that. Again, very new age sounding, and there's a lot of resistance, even for me, to those kinds of things. And I, just want to say, hell, make the atomized and independence fixated culture work for you. I would say be unapologetically subjective with living your best life, so to speak, whatever route, whether it's meandering, whether it's unpopular, whatever route up the mountain, um, however odd it looks, as long as you're climbing the mountain of individuation, that's what counts. And I really hope that these ideas, can help. And that's why I'm doing the channel. And I've mentioned this before also, that often awareness of the problem alone is enough to kind of melt the problem. And I recently learned about it, the term James Hillman uses. There's a specific term when he was in his talks about alchemy. I'm going to call it the warm bath, and that's what it is, but there's a specific name for it. But alchemy is all about heat and fire and containment and fuel, materials, minerals, and how they all transform. And the colors, the albedo, the yellowing. But he talks about the warm bath. And the warm bath, you put something in it to dissolve something. To dissolve a very confusing, tight, wrapped up, gnarled problem. Nothing can resist the warm bath. You put it in and it'll loosen up. It'll loosen up. And then often it's like one of those images like you see very close. And then as you zoom out, the picture reveals itself. In the same way, that's like the warm bath. It loosens up the problem with the heat, but it's a gentle, pervasive heat. And it just loosens everything up, and then you can see what the problem is. It's like one of those things where you're like, oh, I do that, don't I? Oh, I never knew I was having that effect on people, but now that I know, now I can act accordingly. It all makes sense, That's the power of the warm bath. I'll be doing a season on alchemy coming up here, but it's things like that I just love about alchemy. So there'll be more of that to come. But that's the kind of way I see, we have all these tools. If, eventually you'll have a problem in your life, and then you'll step back and think about it and be like, oh, I know what this is. This is, XYZ. And, I'm living a bit too much in the moment. I've got, I remember on that channel, Ausgrave Royalty, the guy was talking about Dionysus and how he just kind of lives in the moment and doesn't shoot for long-term goals and all that. So I think I need to be a bit more Apollonian, I don't know, it sounds extremely nerdy when I'm talking like that, but does it inform my problem? Yes. Does informing a problem help solve it? Yes. So am I in a better place for being nerdy in that regard? Yes. That's the idea here. And throughout the videos, I've used the Bolen's thoughts on the gods and goddesses and tried to tie it into my own life. And hope you all have appreciated those sections. Excuse me. Although I've just been terrible about squeezing all the information in this season. I had so much, and sadly, not all of it made it in, but I need to be better about that, and I own that. So all I can do is improve. So I hope y'all still believe in me. Sorry I'm drinking so much. I'm still got a sore throat from being sick over the new year. It's January 7th, 2023 right now. I film these all in advance and then set them to release in the future. For better or worse, but anyway, a little behind the scenes tidbit there. Looking at my notes. Yeah, go get the books. I really enjoyed covering this material, for sure. Yeah, I like to think that the gods and goddesses, with their very specific and extreme characteristics and myths, can act as creative tools. Like, if you're writing like a movie or a screenplay or like whatever, you can use these paradigms as characters, right? You need like a downtrodden but genius engineer. Maybe Hephaestus has something to offer. Need to identify with a mother's wrath. Maybe look to Demeter and her rage, or Hera when it's not so much the mother, it's the spousal wrath. That's Hera. You need like a femme fatale, but who blesses and curses those she meets throughout her life, depending on whatever you want to write in. Maybe Aphrodite. That's a good one. Seductive yet dangerous, Aphrodite. So, excuse me. Another aspect to all this is that there can be challenges with the paradigm, in the sense that a lot of gods and goddesses, like we've said on the channel before, men have access to the goddess archetypes and vice versa. Women have access to the god archetypes and all characteristics involved through their animus and anima. And so there's the paradigm of the boardroom, and the healthy ego is supposed to broker a space where all these voices, all these archetypes can be heard, and the ego will be the decision maker. I've said this like 1 billion times on the channel, which is that no one should ever want to be an archetype. The archetypes are extreme personalities. They're extreme to the point of nonsensical. They're more like forces. So they're radioactive, but that doesn't stop them. As Bolen says, they're imperialistic. Each one of them wants all of you. Dionysus, all he wants to do is be spontaneous. So if you let Dionysus take the wheel, that's what your life is going to look like, right? So I've said that before, but it can be very difficult. Like, I would say the more archetypes you have constellated or activated within you, the more complicated a person you're going to be, and the more nuanced and tricky and subtle your issues are going to be. Because if you've constellated that much inner growth, you already have a lot of, I guess, inner security. Like, you know you've solved a lot of problems already. You've grown through a lot. Which is why when, like, you think you've got it all figured out because you've seen so much, but then something can throw you for a loop. And it can be challenging to, like, decipher that. I mean, hence the reason for this channel. I would just say, be patient with yourself and make sure you're hearing out each voice so that you can, attempt to unravel what's really going on inside. Self-work is not easy because, again, we've talked about Alan Watts before. who said, like, is self-work really possible? Because, like, or self-help? Because how is the self that needs the help supposed to be the same self that's giving the help to that self, right? But the point is of getting into the subjective experience with these gods and goddesses and archetypes and all that is it provides you at least a breathing suit to dive down and look around in the psyche, in your personal psyche. Yeah, I think, at least try using the tool and see what happens. I think Robert Bly or Joseph Campbell, maybe, they said we all live in a myth of some kind. We can call it a context or a situation or a culture. But I think like myth has more descriptive power when it comes to explaining the way we experience our day-to-day lives. And if we're tapping in to mythical traditions, then it seems like a natural way to navigate the complexities of our lives. And think about the Greeks and the Romans. They lived the closest to myths, like where the gods and goddesses we've covered and more were intimately involved in their day-to-day experiences, unironically. And maybe a little taste of that is what maybe some of us need, especially in this modern age where there are very little sacred spaces left. And I have a video on that, liminal and liminoid spaces. More of cultures of temples of technology these days. And yeah, I mean, perhaps we lack that cultural sophistication of being really in tune with your myth. So I'll have one more video after this concluding and wrapping up the season. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Just about like a post-mortem. I try and do those every season so that I can grow and y'all can comment and help me grow. It's tentative, but I'm thinking of doing Robert L. Moore's Archetype of Initiation book. It's a really short book comparatively, especially I've been doing I did 5 books last season. Last season was massive. This season was 2 books, but still took a lot of work. But Archetype of Initiation is only 1 book, so it might be like a mini season. What I'm really trying to get to though is alchemy. Alchemy. So I may even do season 4 on an alchemical book. I'm trying to decide. It's really up in the air. But hopefully I'll let y'all know as soon as possible, but that's kind of what I'm thinking on the horizon. James Hillman's alchemical text, or Mary Louise von Franz, Edward Edinger's alchemical works, or even, and I have books, Carl Jung's. I could hit up the primary text, hit up the OG, the source. It's funny, we've never actually covered Carl Jung, strictly speaking, on the channel before. Maybe that's a thing. Anyway, I've got a lot of plans. No shortage of material coming on this channel. So hope y'all have enjoyed all that. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Comment down below. Useful links in the description. All right. Bye-bye.